This is Aussie Mac Zone. We'll cover everything Apple, including Macs, iPhones, iPads, and more. All this from an Aussie perspective. Sit back, relax, and insert yourself into the zone. The Aussie Mac Zone.
Hi everybody, welcome to show 238 Aussie Mac Zone. This week we have Zarn bringing up straight away before I get into trouble. How are you, bud?
I'm great, Michael. How are you, mate?
Very good, thank you. Yeah,
Excellent.
you and me again tonight.
Yep.
Very sparse amount of news this week. I had trouble finding things worth talking about. So I think it's in preparation for the Worldwide Developers Conference, which starts very soon.
Yes.
I think 2 weeks, I think. So don't forget this week's sponsors, athwebhosting.com.au and aussietechradio.com. Now, our Aussie Apple ramblings this week start with, I have a question for the listeners. Please help me. I know one very good listener overseas is having issues for the last few shows with Overcast, where it starts the show or starts makes a little bit of noise, and then they've got nothing. Now, I was listening to Overcast today and it was working fine. And I know last week's show made a little bit of noise, but then I still had the rest of the show. So I'm not sure what's going on. And if anyone can tell us if it's happening to them with Overcast or Pocket Cast or the Apple web podcast app, and anyone can tell us if they're having issues, if they could just let us know. Michael at aussiemaczone.com.au. That would be awesome, please, just so we can keep everybody listening and everybody happy. And I apologise for these issues.
Even if the listeners on here don't want to email, they can leave a comment on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And someone will get back to you.
Good reminding.
Yep.
Now, this is good news too, I think. App Store Developers form a union ahead of WWDC calling for free app trials and better rates. A group of App Store developers calling themselves the Developers Union published an open letter to Apple asking the company to commit to allowing free trials for apps and a more reasonable revenue cut. The group says that it is first aiming to get Apple to implement free trials for all apps in the iOS and Mac app stores, by July 2019, with plans after that to advocate for other changes. The initiative is led by Brent Simons from Mars Edit, Vespa, and NetNewsWire creator, and Jake Shoemaker, the Human Story documentary maker, Loren Morris, who's a product designer, and Roger Ogden, who's a software designer. The Developers Union is not a trade union in the traditional sense of the word, but it is aiming to bring developers and supporters together to advocate for App Store changes. In an interview with Wired, the team behind the Developers Union said the aim is to gain 1,000 members this week and 20,000 by early June, when the Worldwide Developer Conference takes place. Free trials for apps in the Mac and iOS app stores have been something that developers have wanted to implement for years. Right now, apps that offer subscriptions are able to provide customers with free trials before requiring payment. But for apps that do not have a subscription offering, there is no way for a free trial to be offered. This is a major downside for apps that are on the more expensive side that people might not want to purchase without trying first. And it has been a major issue for Mac App Store developers in particular. The Developers Union is hoping to persuade Apple to expand free trials to all apps, not just those that offer a subscription-based service. Free trials also must include an authorization for payment at the end of the trial, something developers would also like to see eliminated. Now, revenue sharing, another topic the group hopes to broach with Apple, could be a trickier thing than convincing the company to implement a free trial feature. Apple currently receives a 30% cut of all revenue developers earn from the App Store, and the App Store makes a huge portion of its services business. So there is a link to the Mac Rumors story, the whole story. for those that want to get into it. But what do you reckon? I still think for what happens realistically, what happens in the background, 30% I think is all right. Is a fair cut.
Yep.
And yeah,
I think this isn't a bad thing. Like with the union, I think it's probably pretty smart. Everybody else has this sort of either has a union or someone to back them up.
Yep.
And without that, they can be taken advantage of. So.
Yeah, I don't think they're being taken advantage of. Just that there's so many little people out there, and I think part of the challenge was the race to the bottom on the pricing. I think that's a major challenge.
Yep.
If the pricing was realistic, instead of free within app purchases of crap, you see a big difference.
Yep.
So yeah, but it will be interesting to see how it develops. I think free trials, especially for $60 or $80 apps, it can make the app price. People would start buying them, because I spent some time on the weekend looking for apps, and the ones that were $5 or $7 or $3 all had this app's crap, this app's crap, this app's fantastic, this is the greatest thing ever, this app's crap, this app's crap. And the $60 and $70 ones, they were all, realistically, they were all good. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Now, another good thing for our many of our listeners, Apple updates its website for Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Apple has updated its homepage and accessibility webpage to celebrate Global Accessibility Awareness Day. The event, which Apple has marked in a variety of ways over the years, was created to promote access to technology and foster inclusion for people with disabilities. And Apple's awesome at it.
Yes, they are.
Apple's homepage included a banner image highlighting the accessibility features of its products with the statement, "Technology is most powerful when it empowers everyone." The accessibility section elaborates on that idea with a video first published in 2016 and the following: taking a family portrait, catching up over FaceTime, raising the blinds to let the morning light. We want everyone to enjoy everyday moments that technology helps make possible. So we work to make every Apple product accessibility from the very start, because the true value of the device isn't measured by how powerful it is, but by how much it empowers you. Now, the remainder of the accessibility page is organised into sections dedicated to vision, hearing, physical and motor skills, learning and literacy that outline accessibility features of Apple products and demonstrate them with animations and videos. The updates to Apple's website and its announcement that it is working with schools for blind and deaf students to help teach them to code is a reminder of the importance of accessibility to the company that hopefully encourages third-party developers to make accessibility a priority too. And there's a link to the Mac Stories page for that, which is great.
Yes.
Apple have said they're actually going out to the deaf and blind schools for the coding.
Yep.
So that's awesome.
I think this is really important, because with someone with a disability may have a hard time, using a tablet or of any brand, or a phone or anything like that. And so the fact that Mac are going ahead and making sure that these devices are, sort of friendly for everybody.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Coming from, my line of work, I just think it's brilliant what they're doing.
Yeah. So, and there is a place, one of my good friends who's passed away now, in his retirement, he worked for Technical Aid for the Disabled, TAD it's called. It's down in Parramatta.
Yeah.
And they make wheelchairs work better for people with certain disabilities. They made, tablets work better for people with certain disabilities, so they could hold them properly, and specialised things. And making the unit, whatever it is, work better in the first place means that they could spend the time making it even better for the person with a disability. So they didn't have to muck around with the silly little things we used to had to in the old days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, a reminder, this week we are brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au. And I was talking last week about a offer that we had, but I haven't quite got it together yet. But I want everyone interested in having a website for themselves or their kids to go and have a look at athwebhosting.com.au/sitepad. So Glenn has got this working now, so you can actually see the sitepad preparation, the app itself that runs on the ATH website for creating your website in action. See what it can do. Go from there. Sorry, my eyes are playing up right this second. So don't forget, they do have affordable and competitive plans. They do have domain registration. They do have free setup. They do have instant activation. They do use the cPanel industry standard, user-friendly, feature-rich control panel, and it's all from $5.95 per month when paid annually. And they have friendly help when needed. Now, this one baffles me, but what do I know? So Twitter announces new end-of-life date for APIs and pricing that affects third-party apps. So I don't think Twitter really want anybody but themselves, but they make such a crap app. That's they don't want anyone using their service, but why they can't improve their own application, it's beyond me. But in April, Twitter delayed a transition to a new API that was expected to have a significant impact on third-party Twitter clients, like Twitterrific and Tweetbot. The delay came in the wake of an outcry from users of third-party Twitter clients prompted by developers who banded together to encourage users to complain to Twitter. So they had a little union between themselves about the API changes that were set to take effect on June 19. Today, Twitter announced that those changes will not go forward until August 16, 2 months later than planned. But in addition to announcing the transition date, Twitter announced pricing for its new API, and it's expensive. So a subscription covering 100 to 250 users will cost $2,899 a month. Now that works
US
out.
Dollars?
Sorry?
Is that
US dollars? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's $11 per user if you've got 250 users. Anyone with over 250 users, which includes the major clients, of course, is advised to contact Twitter for enterprise pricing. However, the pricing on the API's lower tiers doesn't leave much room for optimism. Pardon me. Third-party clients that can't or don't want to pay those prices will have to make do without timeline streaming, without push notifications for likes and retweets. Other notifications will be delayed approximately 1 to 2 minutes, according to statements by Haddad to TechCrunch. Again, a link to Mac Stories. But yeah, I haven't heard of anyone that likes the Twitter app on the phone or the iPad.
Yep.
And because they don't sync, so if you're looking at something on the iPad and then leave home and you got to go and look at all the timeline again to get back down to where you were.
Yeah.
Little things like that. But they don't want people to use their service. Anyway, what do I know?
I know. Where every other app you use is doing this, like you can go from Facebook on your tablet to Facebook on your phone and go straight back from where you were. You can do it with Netflix. You can do it with Stan. You can do it with everything else. I don't know why Twitter isn't coming to the party and think that they're going to just continue to say, oh, well, bad luck.
Yeah.
When it's definitely not the time or the place for it. Yeah, you have to keep up or get out. So
I think so, yes. Now, what the heck? Samsung compares the Galaxy S9 to very slow iPhone 6 in frivolous ad. So first and foremost, instead of comparing the 2-month-old Galaxy S9 to an iPhone 10 or even an 8 or iPhone 8 Plus, the 1-minute clip shows a woman becoming increasingly frustrated with her seemingly glacially slow iPhone 6, released in 2014, as she travels by plane to visit her sister. Samsung acknowledges this fact with fine print that says newer iPhone models are currently available, but that doesn't stop it from comparing its 2018 flagship with a nearly 4-year-old iPhone model.
By the way, I have an iPhone 6. I have an iPhone 6 and it's not slow.
But it's not as fast as the 2018 S9.
I bet you it is.
Like, when's the carrier going to update the S9's for like software when there's a bit of malicious software hanging around? I don't know, but anyway. But if someone could, again, tell me on Facebook tonight, tell me in Twitter, tell me in anywhere you like. What's the point of showing a S9 against an iPhone 6?
I know. It's actually insulting them as well. Like, it's doing nothing for their brand at all. To compare it to an iPhone 6, again, a phone from 2014, it's a 4-year-old phone, to their brand new flagship phone, is literally putting themselves down.
Oh, no. So, again, I have a reminder this week. We are brought to you by Aussie Tech Radio at aussietechradio.com. We've got the award-winning Aussie Tech Heads podcast, our Aussie Tech Crypto podcast, our sister podcast. There's even My Tech Opinion and other podcasts from Australia, all worth listening to, all just playing in the background as we go along. Go and enjoy, please. It's certainly worth a listen. Now, there's a bit of Mac OS malicious software out there at the moment affecting some people. So this is how to delete the MS Helper malware from Mac OS. Yes, it'll be in the show notes. I'll just give you an idea of what's involved. It's not too much. So the new malware affecting Mac OS has started to circulate, with reports from Mac users on Apple support forums and Reddit revealing systems are being affected. Affected Mac systems typically have their processor running at full tilt, which can prevent the other software from working optimally due to resources being used on the unwanted program. The high processor usage can also cause the Mac fans to constantly try and cool everything down. For MacBook users, MS Helper's interference also means the battery life will erode away a lot faster than normal. So, firstly, checking for MS Helper, open the Activity Monitor, which can be found in the Applications folder in the Utilities folder, or you can just search for Activity Monitor and look under this Mac.
So in Finder, you can just go,
Yep. And now, once Activity Monitor is open, click CPU. There's one of the headings, one of the column headings is CPU, to bring up a list of processes currently using that. Then click the process name tab to sort the list by alphabetical order. Scroll down the list until you reach MS Helper would appear alphabetically. The quickest way, of course, is to click the %CPU tab to sort the list by processor usage. This should put MS Helper right at the top. Now, removing MS Helper. While it is possible to kill the process, that's futile due to automatically restarting once closed. So what you have to do, in Finder, select your Mac's internal storage, usually called Macintosh HD. Select the library folder. In there's one called Launch Daemons. And then you select com.pplauncher.plist and delete it. Now, also found in the library under Application Support then PP Launcher, and delete PP Launcher. So that's in library again under application support. At this point, you can kill the process. There is a link to the Apple Insider on the page, but just reading that will sort it out for you. Now, you ready? This is going to upset a lot of people. Hey, Siri, do you have a pet? Now, that would have set off a few people's phones probably when they're driving to work. Now, she has about 10 different answers. So try it. You want to try it on yours, Sam? Yep. We might be able to hear it.
Hey, Siri, do you have a pet?
I thought about getting a tribble. Several, actually.
It's a bit hard to hear, but she's got about 10.
I'll turn that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'll ask again. Hey, Siri, do you have a pet?
I thought about getting a tribble. Several, actually.
Try it again.
Hey, Siri, do you have a pet?
This is about you, not me.
So, yeah. Everybody have fun with that. That's another one.
Yep. So, so Siri had a tribble. Actually, they decided to get it several. That's what I got from it.
One of the answers I love, because I'm an Angry Birds person, she said, I once had an angry bird. So there's a few more there.
In the 1980s, I had a neighbour who had a cocky who was angry. Well, it swore like it was angry anyway.
Don't keep it on your chest, bird. So this week in Apple history, got 3 little notes this week. So May 19, 2001, Apple opens the first 2 locations of their new retail stores in McLean, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. In the first weekend of opening, the stores will attract 7,700 shoppers and will sell a combined $599,000 worth of product. Now, while ridiculed by many technology experts at the time, the Apple stores have been insanely successful and one of the key reasons of Apple's resurgence in the 2000s. Now, 7,700, I think that's probably about the right number, because I think divide that by 2, you get 3,000. That's how many the store in Chadstone Shopping Centre in Victoria gets each week too.
Yeah, right.
Massive amount.
That's really cool.
Yeah. May 19, 2006, Apple opens their second store in New York City. And this is the one with the 20,000 square foot shop at the underground concourse of the General Motors building. Open 24 hours a day, the shop is visible at street level through a 32-foot glass cube designed by Steve Jobs at a cost of $9 million. People stood in line for hours prior to the store's opening. And they've taken that apart and rebuilt that cube already once. Yeah. Now, going back all the way to May 19, 1980, at the National Computer Conference in Anaheim, California, Apple Computer introduces the Apple III. It is the company's first attempt at a business computer, its first departure from the Apple II architecture, and it will also become Apple's first real failure. Apple expects the Apple III to be released in July, but in one of the worst cases of delay in tech history, the system wouldn't reach the stores until January. Once released, the Apple III will be plagued by component failures that would ultimately lead to large recalls. The Apple III never recovered from its original negative reception and was discontinued in 1984.
Wow.
What else happened in 1984? Apple IIc and Macintosh.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right then, because Macintosh were awesome.
Yeah.
They're all the Apple computers I had at school when I was a kid.
So that's it.
Yeah.
I got no more.
That was a short show.
As I said, I had trouble finding stuff.
Yeah.
I spent more time looking for stuff than actually, what I'd already found. So,
I've got some questions actually that relate to
go for it.
just sort of pop culture and stuff like that with Mac.
Yeah.
And iPod and iTunes and stuff like that mainly. I was reading some old articles about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And how she took Apple to court and won. Do you know much about that?
Took them to court. I don't remember her taking them to court. No.
So she wanted more money for her distribution of her music.
Yeah.
And got it. And I don't know if it was court or they settled out of court, but they definitely settled with her winning the argument.
Yes. I know. That's correct.
And so she
actually, I think she actually tweeted something.
Yeah.
Just going back a few years.
Yeah.
Tweeted something, and then it was over Christmas.
Yeah.
And
she was about to release a new album and said that she wasn't going to release it with iTunes.
Yeah.
Because they weren't willing to pay her enough. She didn't actually say pay her enough, but
no.
She wanted to give like a free taste of her album over the Christmas period, or just before Christmas, because it was due to be released at Christmas, and just a couple of songs here and there, and then release it. And she wanted more money for the release, and
and they sorted it out within a week. That was all sorted.
Yeah, but it was so what I read that not only did she agree, did they agree to her terms, but then it brought on a sort of everybody was like, well, actually that's fair what she's asked. We all want the same.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of other musicians said, well, look, we're not going to release with iTunes either, because they're not coming to the plate to, sort of deal with us as artists, and they're not recognising this. And then, Apple did come to the party and played and said, yes, no, we're happy to do that, and so, now iTunes is one of the biggest sellers of music in the world.
Yeah, still is,
Yep. It still is. That was in 2014, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Now, see, another comment, a couple of things this week, just on the music side.
Yeah.
So Tidal, which is Beyonce and what's her husband's name?
Jay-Z.
Yeah, I'm sure he's the owner of Tidal.
Yeah.
They're getting some flack because they're about 4 or 5 months behind on royalty payments to people that have their music on Tidal.
Yeah, right.
Which is so it's struggling, but they're playing in the big league. They want to play in the big league. So
I understand what Jay-Z was thinking about when he wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And it's sort of trying to get young up and coming artists out there, and and music he really likes to produce, everything like that isn't getting picked up by big labels and stuff like that. So I understand what he's doing, and it is a great thing for new musicians. But again, if they're not getting paid for what they're making, then it's not fair.
That's right. And another one, I don't know who it is. I'm sorry, I don't know the person's name because it's too new for me. But
don't worry, it's too new for me as well.
Spotify took someone off there. Said we're going to drop you out of the playlist because they've been. Now we're talking about now being the era. Yep. They've been accused of, sexual misbehaviour or whatever.
Okay.
As I said, I'm not 100% up on the story. I just know little bits about it.
Yep.
So they've taken. Spotify led it and took this particular person or group or whatever off the from their playlist. So people submit playlists.
Yep.
And basically they've gone through and found this person's group's name and taken that out of the playlist automatically.
Wow.
So because a lot of people just, it's like a radio station. I like listening to, I don't, but say Bob Rogers.
Yeah. I have no idea who Bob Rogers is.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is Bob Rogers just like the artist dude that he painted when I was a kid?
No, he was an early radio DJ.
Okay.
Who's still around. And, everyone says, oh, I'll listen to him because I like his music or whatever. You know what I mean? So his choice of music. So that's what people do on Spotify and stuff now. They submit playlists. People say, I love that guy's taste in music. And he keeps updating his playlist every day, every week.
Yep.
So, so these people haven't even been convicted, but times are different to, say, 10 years ago.
Yep. You can do this. You can do that on iTunes as well. You can just make a playlist and then submit it.
Yeah, and submit it.
Submit it. Like, because I've got Apple Music, and I can make a playlist that's just mine, or I can then submit it, and if people like it, they'll pick it up and use
listen to it. Yeah. So we can stick it up on the Aussie Max Zone website for you.
Yeah. All right then. Well, I just made. Well, I'm in the middle of making one for the kids because. I don't want to have to listen to kids' music all the time in the car. And so, I've put some Beatles and some Beach Boys and Queen and Led Zeppelin. And
that's funny. That's what our kids listen to.
Yep. That's what I listen to. So I thought if it was good enough for me, it's good enough for them.
That's right. And they still enjoy it.
Yep, exactly. So I've got a little bit of They Might Be Giants, because They Might Be Giants made a kids album, so it's fun for both parents and adults to sing along to in the car too. So
yeah. Now.
Yep.
Anything you had more than one story? Sorry,
well,
I was thinking of something else at the same time. Yeah.
Yep. So also on Apple Music, I was looking for Little Dicky. He's a Jewish rapper.
Yeah.
Really good. Really, he's fast. Yeah. He's a bit funny, and I like his music, but he's not on iTunes, and I don't know why. He used to be, I'm pretty sure, because I'm sure I had, I did. I had a couple of his albums on there, and for some reason now iTunes don't have him on there. Like all his stuff's gone.
I'm trying to think what he was on. Was he on something the other day? I don't know whether it was Specs and Specs, which are old shows.
Yeah.
Whether he was on there or he was on like the news or something.
He might have been on the news.
Being interviewed.
Because I don't think he would have been on Specs and Specs. He's pretty new.
Yeah.
He's done stuff with Snoop Dogg and he did stuff with Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they've taken him off, because Chris Brown, maybe because, Chris Brown's passed. I don't know. I haven't looked up Chris Brown because I don't really like Chris Brown. Because I don't like his past. But, and so I don't know why Little Dicky isn't on Apple Music. And I'd like an answer from Apple. They're never going to get back to me. But still, hey.
So... I'll just got something to say at the end of the show. I can't remember whether we did it, but don't forget, show notes link each week on the show upload. So whatever you're listening to, when you actually look at the story and the information each week that gets uploaded with your podcast, there are links to this week's show notes. Spotify, just search for Aussie Max Zone. In Apple News, you just search for Aussie Max Zone. Now, thank you to our sponsors, this week being athwebhosting.com.au and aussietechradio.com, and our supporters, you, our listeners. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you to the listeners. Thank you to all that support us. And remember, an apple a day keeps the androids away. Thanks, guys.
Remember, hey Siri, I see a little silhouette of a man.
Hang on. Hey Siri. I see a little silhouette of a man.
I just don't get this whole gender thing.
Wrong answer. Hey Siri, I see a little silhouette of a man.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, 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 Galileo Figaro Magnifica.
That'll do it. That's just an enticement for you to listen to it. So don't forget, hey Siri, I see a little silhouette of a man.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.